Okay. So for anyone watching this video, welcome back. Haven't made a video for a long time. I have my chat on the screen. I am streaming, so anyone that watches this on YouTube, you might see the chat. And I was mentioning that they can join in with the discussion. The topic is going to be what after Elden Ring? What happens? I'm sure many people are very curious of what the next step is after Elden Ring. Not for this channel, but more importantly for everybody and for From Software, the developer. Like, what are they going to make next, right? So we're going to go over the things they've done. Right here we have Elden Ring open. I'm going to just recap everything they've done for the last while right here. And we're going to talk about each game. Don't mind the lighting, I just moved, so it's a little weird. But yes. Okay, let's go back to 2008, 2009, roughly. Original Demon Souls PS3 trailer right here. Let's go. So we start off with Demon Souls on PS3. So this is before any game was ever made by From Software that was like a Souls game, essentially. There were some similar games like Kingsfield, Tenchu, whatever, but this is like their first ARPG. I remember I played this in 2011, so this is a little bit after it came out. And now if you watch the trailer, it looks a little old. I mean, it's still pretty cool, but like a lot of stuff has changed since then. So this is like kind of the introduction of just the basic mechanics. There was no jumping as far as I remember, but it was challenging. You'll see a lot of these little things show up that say challenging game, you know?
So the world might be... Hi Squilla. Hi chat. Hope everyone's doing well.
Brutally challenging. All these like game outlets. I know a lot of people are gonna say game journalism, but it was really hard. I remember playing this, and because the reward and progression was different, it was kind of like, okay, if you screw up, you really feel the mistake, even beyond just that one situation. Like, you might lose progress, essentially. But you don't actually, like, go back before anything you've done, right? You just go back to the last checkpoint. And I think what they did with Demon Souls to make it more difficult than even some of the games now, in one aspect, was that they made the archstones really far apart. So there wasn't as many checkpoints. This is before bonfires were invented. So the big thing with Demon Souls is like huge areas, right? No checkpoints, no rests in between. The areas were pretty tricky. The bosses were very gimmicky. You can see a lot of them right here. So I mean, yeah, like run away from the dragon bridge, shoot Leechmonger with a bow, hit Tower Knight's ankles 2 times and then he's dead, stuff like that. There's only a few bosses in this that are actually really difficult. It's also the first time they made a game with the PvP system kind of like they have now, where you invade another player's world. And I think that was pretty cool. So they set up this series, essentially, that we have leading up to Elden Ring. Okay, so there's that. Now let's check out DS1. Okay, first trailer ever for DS1. I don't even know if everybody's seen this before. This is like the OG trailer. After this ad stops playing. So I remember when this came out, I'd already beaten Demon Souls and I pre-ordered it before even knowing what it was about. I literally had almost no information on it. I just knew that I liked Demon Souls. But this, they introduced a lot more with the world design. Obviously, it's interconnected. There is no breakup between most areas. It's seamless. So that was a huge achievement, I think, to incorporate into a game with the system or the mechanics that Demon Souls has. Obviously, like a lot of people argue, this isn't like impressive for technology or impressive for like the scope of how big the game is, but the quality of like having that challenge, but it being interconnected was a huge achievement.
So occasionally I might ask you an accounting question, poggers.
So yeah, DS1, just big. It was big, and it was colorful too. It had like more color to it. It had more diversity. You could also level up just by sitting down at a checkpoint, and there was actual checkpoints almost everywhere, right? So a lot of you guys that played this remember leaving Undead Asylum, and then you're like, whoa, like the actual world is just like real. It feels like it kind of makes sense, right? One thing they achieved with this game that I don't believe was ever achieved again until Bloodborne. It has like a seamlessness to it, but it actually like is believable, where you don't just throw random pieces together and then try to like glue them together and make it look smooth. It's like they actually make sense, as if you could believe this was a real world design. And the atmosphere is by far one of the best ones, I think. But it was still challenging in terms of like the difficulty. The bosses were actually harder. A lot of them weren't as gimmicky, but still pretty basic and everything. So from a design standpoint, I would give it like a higher rating than Demon Souls. They definitely improved. Combat and everything, few small improvements, but relatively the same. Like nothing has changed yet to fundamentally be different. And that's one theme that we're going to talk about in the next few minutes as well, as we go through all this stuff. So I'm going to open up the trailer for DS2. And then this is unfortunately where we got a little bit of problems. Tiny bit of issues here. After this ad stops playing. Gee, son, I love you so much. Thank you for going to school. Sobies. Okay, there we go. So here we get like this phenomenal trailer. It looks amazing. Again, this whole video's point's not to speak about what they did with the trailer that made people kind of excited and then let them down or anything with the actual gameplay, but they did hype it up a lot. This looked fantastic. A lot of these themes they kept in the game, but it did not look like this though. So already you think you're gonna get more atmosphere, you think you're gonna get more, you know, of a extensive world to go through. And really all they did, unfortunately, in reality, is just they made a dumbed down version of DS1 with more variety, more stuff, and the variety's not necessarily like well met or anything. It's kind of like it almost feels like a half-ass game in a way. But there's a lot of things about DS2 that were really good, and the PvP was one of the favorite parts of it, I think. So here, we'll do the launch trailer right here. PvP for me was basically what built this channel originally. That's what I like to do. I made a lot of content on it. I did a lot of tournaments, a lot of commentary, and a lot of participation too. So they give you this like really cool thing, but then look at how the game looks. It looks kind of bad. It sucks compared to like DS1, in my opinion. Yet it still sold really well. It still did really well. At this point, the combat and everything, it's relatively similar, but they made the mechanics different in the way that you can two-hand your weapon, but you can also have two weapons at the same time that also act as a new moveset. That was an innovation, but it didn't change the game completely. It's still relatively the same, right? So you have, you can bring back enemies in the environment with the bonfire aesthetic mechanic. There is differences with equip load and everything that actually were for the worse, I would say. They made it percentage based. It made it a bit more complicated, changes your roll distance. But everything's relatively the same still. It's not really that big of a deal. It's just a big game with a lot of stuff that's not super, super high quality until you get to the DLC, and then I think it gets a bit better. So you have that. And then this is where Miyazaki comes back and starts working on the game again, because he didn't have a lot of participation in Dark Souls 2. He was more so just overseeing the project, but it was Tanimura that actually directed DS2. So now we got the Dark Souls 3 trailer. And then this is where I kind of was excited with the direction of the future of the games, but there's still not, like, again, a huge difference with it. So this is the launch trailer. Let's see if we can show the PS4 trailer. It's bugging out. Wait 1 second. Fire Fades edition. We'll just watch this one. So automatically looks much better than Dark Souls 2.
Feast. Begin.
Looks better than DS1 in my opinion, and 2. A lot of people argue DS1 still looks better. The thing with this game, it lacks some atmosphere. It's a little washed, right? Because what they did is essentially they made it a combination of the linearity of DS2, but they made it the quality of Dark Souls 1 in like the soul of it, with like the combat and like some of the textures and the designs and the grittiness and everything. It still just has this thing though about it where it's kind of a fan service. And because of that, they have to listen to what people want in the game, right? And it's going to take away some of the artistic vision that was in the original games, where it was more so unbiased because they hadn't built a fan base. So I think this game suffered a little bit from the consequences of what people wanted out of the game. But it's still one of my favorite games. I still think it's ranked higher for me than the other two in the trilogy. It's my favorite of the three. But again, not too many mechanics that are different. They put twin weapons in the game so you can have a thing kind of similar to power stance in Dark Souls 2, but as a set of weapons that come together. You can't power stance anymore. They took that away. You can lock on and run at the same time, but again, just basic stuff. Like, there's nothing that's really fundamentally different. And then you get to Sekiro. We're gonna do Sekiro first, and then Bloodborne. I know that's... Actually, you know what? No. We'll do Bloodborne first. Why not? Bloodborne. Okay. So Bloodborne came out before Dark Souls 3, but I'm gonna add it in this order because we did the trilogy in order. So let me do the trailer for this one. And then this was something I was super excited about for the reason that I'm making this video for, the whole question of like what is going to be changed overall. And I wasn't really sure what the extent of it would be. But here's just a gameplay trailer. I'm sure most people here have played Bloodborne. But yeah, like the aesthetic was completely different, the theme was different, and everything like that. It had different mechanics to an extent, but like the formula of what they're trying to do is still the same. It's not like like a lot of people will argue Bloodborne is a different game. It is to an extent. But like if you dislike Bloodborne heavily because of the way it's designed, you still might not like the other games. It's not like it's going to be a polarized game. So you still get, your weapons and stuff. They reduce the RPG elements down to a more intentional list of things where the actual characteristics of each item are more detailed and less just kind of cut, copy, paste and, make things similar that are different. So each thing feels unique. Weapons especially, like they feel very good. And this is something that like I think is one of the qualities they developed over time that's really important that they should keep in the future. And they did capitalize on that idea in Elden Ring, which I'll talk about a bit once we get to Elden Ring. But that is actually one of the most important characteristics of Bloodborne is the uniqueness and the fact that they sacrificed quantity and they went back to doing quality instead of what they did for DS2. And I appreciate that more than anything so far. But again, the core mechanics are relatively the same. You're trying to stagger enemies based on limb damage and they have kind of like a stability meter for different body parts in some cases. There's some weaknesses with beasts versus, the alien enemies having different weaknesses that you can exploit, but it's a relatively similar game. The changes mainly are subject to the theme. And there's a couple differences here and there. So we got that. Now we're going to go to Sekiro. This is the E3 2018 trailer here for Sekiro. Now, when this came out, I was actually just secretly hoping they would kind of disband the whole formula they went with before. And for this game, I think like there might be people that argue they didn't. I think that they completely threw it out and they kept the genre close to action. They stepped out of the RPG side of things and they went just purely into action. And the story of this game was less cryptic. Like it wasn't delivered to you in mysteries, more so upfront. Like you're not going to have to investigate the story to figure it out. So I like that quite a bit. But the most important thing that it did though is it showed that they can make a game that's the best game of the year. That literally wins an award, which not all their games have. And as far as I know, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they've all won awards. So they won Game of the Year 2019 with something that is completely different, or the most fundamentally different than they've ever done. Huge risk. Brings a more general audience to their company or to their studio, obviously, like as a fan of their games. So that's going to create more trust in the future that they can make different things, right? And I like that. So this game, out of anything they've ever released since Demon's Souls, has made the biggest impact in the perception of what they can do, I think, and also what to expect for the future that's going to answer the question a bit more of what is next. I think it's going to help answer that at least. It might not fully answer it, but you can see in this game tons of different stuff. So they have the posture system. They have deflections where you have to parry actively tons and tons of times to go back and forth. You can't just keep hitting your enemy and kill them because then eventually they're going to parry you or, deflect your attack, and then they have the advantage in terms of time. So that's kind of cool. It's kind of like a fighting game in that aspect. where you can't just continuously keep doing anything. There's going to be penalties for being reckless. So Sekiro is very intentional, and I think it takes what is really satisfying about the other games, but it makes it like a necessity. So you kind of have to be good at it to beat it. You can't just be like okay and beat Sekiro. You actually have to be good to beat it in the end. And there's nothing you can do to help yourself from other people. You have to be the only person. Whereas everything before this, you can summon or have the help of a friend in the same world. So they can easily handicap it. They can drop you items to make it easier. There's tons of things. So once they took out the RPG elements, you start to see that things get a lot more refined and technical, and it requires the player to be more attentive, more focused, and I guess a little bit more patient in some cases too. So a lot of people say when Sekiro came out, oh, I can't get into it because they're playing it like Dark Souls, which doesn't work. So that was really important. They did a lot of cool things there. And then we get the Elden Ring trailer. And now they've kind of taken a step back here, in my opinion. But I don't think it's a bad step back. I think it was a really good step.
All the outfits. Check.
But we're gonna get into that in a second. So many ads right now. Oh, it's because I'm not even logged in. That's why. Okay, note to self: next time log in before doing this. Use premium. Don't not use premium. Okay, so we got the Elden Ring trailer. The world design, 100% the best they've ever done, in my opinion. You can say that it loses the win for that because they put so much stuff in it that it can't possibly be as intentional in quality. I think with the scale of it, it's the most high quality game of this scale that I've seen that still has the same kind of combat and like the difficulty of it. The story writing's perfect. I think that George R.R. Martin and Miyazaki did a great job. So they've improved the story. They've improved, in my opinion, the world design. They've made the way that you traverse the world design play into the difficulty. So this is more accessible for a lot of people. I think that's a good direction. It has elements of other fantasy that I've seen that's not really relative to Souls included to make it feel more like a different game. But under the surface, ultimately, Dark Souls with jumping, better hitboxes, and then more variety, but high quality variety at the end of the day, literally. That's the best, like, genuine explanation I can give of it. You can defend this game and say, like, it's different if you want to. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. The most important part is you like it. I spent tons of time trying to say why it's different or whatever, and there is some differences, but at the end of the day, Dark Souls with jumping, higher quality mechanics, super good story writing, better world design. They've just taken their original idea and they've blown it up. Like, they've done everything that they can on all the checklists, all the boxes, and they've checked them off at the high, like 10 out of 10 for everything. They turned every setting up to max with their original idea. So even though, again, there's nothing fundamentally crazy happening here, it became also one of the best games, and I'm sure that it's a really fair contender for Game of the Year. So
the world might be mended.
The lesson that I think they've learned from everything so far is actually demonstrated as so in this, where they've put things in to show that they've learned a lot, which wasn't so clear before, and that wasn't the intention because it was a trilogy. Essentially, they made the trilogy. Miyazaki doesn't like doing sequels for for what it's worth, just to mention that. He's the guy that makes these things, so he doesn't like sequels. And there's a reason. I think that's because every time they do something different, it works really well. And so if we're gonna think about what's after Elden Ring, I think it's gonna be that they keep testing ideas with FromSoft that are completely different, like Sekiro, even beyond the genre of action, maybe other genres too. But they're going to take all the experiences they've learned from, and they're going to roll it into like big games once in a while. I don't know when the next game is going to be that they release, but that's what we're going to talk about right now to finish off this this discussion. I want to know your opinions in chat. What genres do you think they're going to go for? If there's going to be a different genre or a combination, and what themes do you think is going to be incorporated? Because we know they're going to keep one thing we know for sure. They're probably going to make games with combat. They're probably going to make big worlds, or try to, and they're probably going to make satisfying mechanics that are challenging. That's the three things that they're really good at this point, that we've just gone over from everything from the beginning, right? So sci-fi, Sailor, you think they're going to do sci-fi? I think that they're going to try sci-fi at some point too. because it's the only thing that's super different than every other style they've done that would be a learning experience. So I feel like if they are willing to take the risk, sci-fi is a good play. Because their version of sci-fi can be more dystopian and less like typical pop culture, I think. They could actually put a twist on sci-fi that I feel like some people haven't even done yet, which is hard to do, but that's my favorite kind of fiction, is when you can bring like different elements of timeline together. So you can have something that has futuristic elements or even fantasy completely, and then you can have realistic things and stuff that's current time or past. You can blend the timelines all together. Do you expect that we're going to get some major DLC for Elden Ring? I think there's going to be DLC for this game, yeah. That's my guess. Armored Core revisit. So yes, I think they're going to be making Armored Core. I'm pretty sure that's almost 100%. But I guess like what's going to be the next game that succeeds Elden Ring? Because a lot of people have asked me that. I genuinely think it's going to be something that they've learned from by making this, and they're going to make it kind of similar to Elden Ring in the sense of how big the game is. But maybe they go back and they do things like they did with Bloodborne, where they put a reskin on Elden Ring. That's a possibility too. That could be really fun, I think, because if the theme is completely different, I like all the stuff they're doing already. So that's one option. Easily could continue Bloodborne and do a sequel to that, and that's a really good segue into how they would do it. They would take the framework and the way they did everything for this, put a Bloodborne skin on it. That'd be really awesome. But at the end of the day, though, I think that like the themes they haven't done are gonna be huge, right? So that's the only mystery for me, is like what kind of theme is it gonna have? And if they make other genres that they've never made before, what are the other genres of things in between gonna be? You know. You hope it's not another open world game. Okay, so then here's a good question. What does everybody want?
You can also join with players from other worlds to journey, explore.
FromSoft's making Eldenborn 9, skipping 1 to 8. Miyazaki is your cousin, you know things. Airvid, you're funny, man. Alien space-like horror, okay. Small action-heavy game late 2025 or medium DS3 size RPG in 2026. That's very specific too. So smaller action-heavy game or a medium DS3 size RPG. Okay. So like you're thinking they're gonna follow the same pattern of making like big games that are not as satisfying like technically, and then like really technical games that are smaller like Sekiro. Because I feel like what's gonna happen is they're gonna have to combine like some new stuff together if they want to keep being relevant, right? Since they can make this formula forever, but if they really want to be like monumental in like game design, which they've already become super big, they've grown their studio so much. If they want to scale again, they're gonna have to do that. But cosmic horror would be pretty cool too, for sure. Okay, you know what? No, I'm gonna do before we end this. Oh, the ad's over. Wait, is there another ad? There is. Okay, here we go. Shh, I was just hunting deers. Oh my God, that's not a deer, that's a lion. Dad, get back in the car. You don't remember when animals are around. Oh shit, the lion's attacking us. August 19th, some guy in a car and his daughter crying are gonna find a cat underneath a van, and the guy's gonna have a sniper rifle, but he's not gonna realize that he's fighting a lion the whole time because he has a rare condition where he can't see lions. People are gonna be in water and there's gonna be lions all around the water. Some guy in a white shirt's gonna have to tell him there actually is lions, and the movie's called Beast. There we go. Idris Elba, he's a good actor. I like him. Yeah, anyways, this is just like a discussion that we're doing randomly at the end of a stream. So anyone that sees this, don't expect anything too serious. There's going to be a lot of serious videos coming up pretty soon. I just moved, so I'll be writing some more scripts for things and doing a lot more challenges and random stuff. But yeah, the next video should be the Elden Ring enemy and item randomizer that we were doing today. I just wanted to touch base on what everyone thinks is coming after Elden Ring and just kind of do a recap of the history of the games. And then also you guys in the comments, I'd love for you to mention what you think is going to happen next. And also if you want to answer every question I've asked you guys, like what theme do you think they're going to be making for their future games? If it's going to be a different theme or the same stuff only. If it's going to incorporate multiple elements of the stuff they've done or just do something completely different, whatever you can answer, definitely put it in the comments. And if you did like this discussion, definitely like the video. That helps. Also hit that little bell beside the subscription button, because if you don't, you'll never remember me, because the human brain has so much information in the 21st century. It's impossible to remember anything. So you have to hit the bell so Google can remember for you through YouTube, because that's actually the future.